July 26th. Ooh, this is cool.
Or somebody.
Yeah, hang on just a second. Good afternoon and welcome to the July 26th Board of Douglas County Commissioners Work Session. Today we're talking capital improvement plans. As in all of our work sessions, there's no action at the end of this session. It's for informational purposes only. We do not take public comment at our work sessions. But if you'd like to provide public comment, we welcome you to join us at our 5:30 business meeting, which will be later today. Sarah, would you like me to turn this over to Brooke, Chad, or you?
I think Brooke's going to lead us off today.
Thank you, Sarah, and good afternoon, commissioners. Bear with me for a quick moment while I share my screen. I'm going to provide just a brief overview and presentation related to facilities projects, and then I'll turn it over to my colleague Chad to talk about some road and bridge projects. Okay, so commissioners, it was fall, the last time that we talked about our capital improvement program. We don't have a lot of facilities changes, but I want to highlight some of the changes that we have made since we last met. And provide just a general overview of how staff prepared the CIP. So the allocation process, the amount allocated to the CIP each year will align with the county's growth and value up to 7%. The capital improvement program fund allocation, we split it between two departments, which you guys know. 70% will go to support road and bridge projects, and then 30% of that allocation will go to support facilities projects at the county. The 2024 proposed allocation does include $500,000 in a fund balance transfer. This is a one-time transfer because we are working to consolidate some special use funds, which includes special building. An additional $179,000 will be added to the facilities allocation to support projects transferred from that special building fund. So we're building that in. Another thing that I want to talk a little bit about is the year-end transfer at the end of 2022. We did have some surplus funds that we were able to transfer to bolster both road and bridge projects and also facilities projects. And in a later slide, I'll go into a little bit of detail about which projects that funding was used to bolster. Approximately, or no, not approximately, $3 million was used for the creation of new facilities projects in 2024, and then $2 million for the road and bridge projects. Our expected expenditures for this year, it's estimated to be around $20 million. So 11.6 of that would be for the road and bridge projects, and then 8.3 million estimated for facilities and capital replacement program projects. I also wanted to add this chart in here to show some of the allocations that were made to the capital improvement program by year. I went all the way back to 2016, and you can see the allocation and the mill levy impact in the general fund over that period of time. You can observe in this chart that we took a cut to the CIP in 2019 from roughly $5.1 million to around $4 million, and then have slowly built that back up over time through 2024. just quickly, we went over this back in October of last year, but I did add the last bullet point to two of these. So just as a reminder, our capital improvement program, they can include land acquisition, new construction of or remodeling of public buildings. But really, I think the most important piece here is that these are projects that increase the value of an existing structure, and they typically cost $50,000 or more. A capital replacement program item is a replacement or repair of an existing structure that restores value. So it's not necessarily increasing the value of that structure, but it's restoring the original value of that structure. And typically those projects will come in less than $50,000, but they can also cross over that threshold. I talked a little bit about that consolidation of funds, and as you can see in this slide, I've taken a slide from a budget presentation that you guys were provided at the end of the budget deliberations, where we talked about some fund structure and changes that the administrative staff are doing to consolidate or eliminate some of these special use funds. So I wanted you to have this slide here so that you could, just visualize that presentation and then put that into practice as it relates to that one-time transfer of the fund balance for that fund that we are closing. And then utilizing the funds that we would have levied for special building, and then consolidated that also into our capital improvement program. Let's see, I think, yeah. There were a handful of projects that I did end up bringing over from the special building into the CIP. Because they were either in progress, they may end up being completed before the end of the year. But I want to show them here because if they're not completed, they will eventually hit the CIP moving into 2024. The next few slides are really just focusing on the changes that we've made since we last met in the fall. A couple of new projects, and a couple of these projects, especially the ones there at the top, were the projects where we allocated that year-end transfer of $3 million that was split between facilities projects and road and bridge projects. That funding essentially paid for, or was allocated to rather, in the proposed CIP, to the radio consoles for emergency communications. So that's extremely important 911 infrastructure. The treasurer's office, the land or the building acquisition, and then the remodel of that structure. The Board of County Commissioners hearing room renovation. That was included with the second floor renovations in the last CIP that you guys saw. Staff broke that off into two separate projects. So that's a new project that you'll see, but we talked about it a little bit last fall. So if it sounds like I'm saying the same things I am, we just broke that off into a new project. We also added the LDCFM station expansion to include station number 6. And again, I brought over just a couple of smaller projects from the special building fund. You can see I had the old building project numbers on there. I've assigned a new capital replacement program number to them if they do end up coming over into 2024. A couple of project updates for you guys. We restored a project that has kind of been talked about for a number of years. So you'll see the project number is a little bit lower. And that's the Stratford Tower replacement project. That project has been ongoing for a number of years, and with the city, it's their tower. We have our equipment on it. And so for a number of years, we didn't have any funding allocated to that project because we just weren't sure where we were at. So now we've got some real solid numbers and things are gaining traction. So we have revived that project, and you'll see that in the proposed plan. We also moved a project up a year. This is the HVAC upgrades to our Criminal Justice Service North Campus. That project was slated to begin in 2024, and the work really needs to be done now. So we moved a couple of numbers around and were able to allocate funding to that project in 2023 to get that work done. And then I removed a project, and that's the HVAC upgrades to our folks next door. As we get closer to the renovation and the master plan revision, that will likely be included in any sort of bond issue if that's how we pay for that project. And that would be included with that. So we felt like it was a good idea to just get that one out of there. Completed projects. This is one of my favorite slides. So we have completed the Fairgrounds Improvements Project, the deferred maintenance at the correctional facility. The picture you see on the screen here is during the renovation of the first floor clerk's office remodel. That work is complete and folks moved down there at the beginning of the year this year. The second floor hearing room is complete over at our Justice and Law Enforcement Center. The historic courthouse elevator was repaired and is working fantastic. And then we also completed the Human Services HVAC replacement on the capital replacement plan. A couple of projects that are currently in progress and are also equally as exciting are the historic courthouse stonework restoration. I know Jay has come before this body a number of times to discuss that plan and what's entailed with that. The JLE master plan revision and expansion, fairgrounds maintenance building is all underway. And then we have the HVAC replacement for our elections office, the 6th Street satellite office. And then the BOCC hearing room here is also, we're beginning work on that and the pre-design phase. So, commissioners, that is all I have for you guys. I'm going to run back up to the podium and stop sharing. And I'll turn it, actually, if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those. No, okay. I'll turn it over to my colleague Chad, and he can go over some of the road and bridge projects with you.
All right. Well, let's see, last fall, we talked about the previous CIP and on our side, we went into a lot of detail about our bridge replacements and we had done kind of a review that's a more long-term type of view of them. And so we didn't do anything like that this year. This is really the same information, and the only changes I want to cover are where we've shifted schedules. And that's really the only difference in the picture right now. So in the packet for the meeting, you've got the document that we produce each year, and that what you see on the screen is this year's version. That's a bridge that we repaired this year, and today the bridge opened to traffic. So that's done, and one of our first complete projects for the year. So that's a good one to have done. The rails were coming off of that bridge and rebar was hanging below it, and they were able to cut them off and rebuild them. It's kind of incredible what they did out there. But I'm going to bring up one page that's really where I want to focus this, and it's not showing up above. Okay. I'll stop and start again. Let's try this. Of working with no mouse. There we go. So you have this page in your packet, and what I've done here is highlight some of the things we want to look at. I've got red arrows where things have shifted. So like, for instance, the top one there, and 1200 Road is the Ham Quarry Hall Road, and we take funds from them to work on that road. Last year, there was $100,000 maybe being spent in 2023. That's going to be maybe spent in 2024. We're continually evaluating the pavement out there. So that's relatively minor amount of dollars. Moving down to the bridge 2058-1500, we're going to shift that back a year. There are some design challenges that delayed the progress of that. So right there, instead of building it in 24, we're going to build it in 25. The next one down is bridge 1800-1124, and we have chosen to move that to 2026 from 2025. The reason for that is to free up more dollars for the Wakarusa Drive project. Each year that you delay a project, it helps your cash flow and allows you to do things if they're not funded adequately. And I'm gonna get something out of the way on my screen here. There we go. And then below that, I've got that red circle around those projects that are highlighted. And what we've done there is Route 1061 is becoming a high priority based on the Panasonic plan. That's the route that's our easternmost north-south route. It takes a 10-mile run from 56 Highway all the way to Eudora, and it carries a lot of traffic, and we only see that getting worse. It's already got a lot of truck traffic from the intermodal facility in Gardner. And there are a lot of concerns with safety on that road. We've been working on it, but the CIP was starting to list several projects, and what was happening was there were like 3 in a 5-year period. Folks are not going to be happy if we close that 10-mile stretch 3 times in 5 years. So what we're doing is compressing those and hoping we can do what's a very large project for us in 2028. And so we've shifted the timelines on those to make that happen. And that'll be our next goal after Wakarusa is complete, is to really hit that road. There's a bridge that needs to be replaced. There are the intersection safety concerns at 700 Road where there's a hill that blocks sight distance. There are multiple culverts, there are no shoulders, and there's a particular stretch in there along the N500 mile that has a lot of driveways. And so plenty of work out there on Route 1061 to do. So those are really, if you were to go back and compare to last year, those are the major changes that we're seeing. And obviously the only topic of note is the Wakarusa Drive project. We did see some savings on current projects. We have shifted some dollars, as I said, with one of the bridges. And then the $2 million allocation that Brooke referenced has been put on the Wakarusa project to bridge that gap of funding for now. And then that immediately takes us into a conversation about our agreements with the city and how we'll move that back the other direction once we have an agreement with them. So all in all, we're looking pretty well funded. We have plenty of work, and we're getting some good projects done.
Chad, can I ask you a bit about the timing on that 1061? So consolidating all these projects into one time frame, put it out to 2028. Was that were some of those starting earlier? I see just the one. My question is, can we wait that long till 2028? Not that I'm interested in funding it sooner because of what that would do to our cash flow, but
Right.
The need's probably pretty intense already.
It is. And in terms of design work, the quickest we could start out there would probably be 26. So we're not that far off from our capacity. It would be nice to do it sooner, but our cash flow would not support that with the allocations we have. And the allocations have, gone up to what they've been previously. So it's not that we're, getting less money doing less. We're finally seeing those restored, and we're isolating where we can spend that money. So I think that's a good timeline for us with all that considered. And in terms of what you were asking about how things have shifted, we do have the one set of culvert replacements that moved from 27 to 28, but then we took projects that were actually slated out beyond what you've seen. They were in 29 and 30, and we've pulled them back.
Have any more questions, do we, commissioners? Okay. Well, thank you for the report and all the changes on here. I think for the public to know, we've had this packet for quite some time. Got it during our budget hearing, so we've had a chance to review it. Appreciate all the work that's been put in this. Thanks for the overview. And with that, if there's no more questions, commissioners, Commissioner Willie.
Sorry, I want to jump in there, and this is a question kind of generally for Brooke. So on some of these larger building projects that we know are kind of coming to us in the near future, we don't get to add those into our CIP until we have a little bit more solid numbers for that. Is that why, like JLE building, why we don't have kind of larger numbers set aside for that yet?
I mean, Commissioner, what I'd say is that you have it. We have been talking about downtown master improvements, and that has been represented on our CIP for a number of years. As that project evolves, each year we change it. So it is on our CIP, but it evolves each year. So right now, those numbers don't reflect. They reflect the, what we have at the time. When we get better numbers, we put better numbers in. Does that answer your question?
And then do those get updated throughout the year, or again, when we do CIP project process next year?
Well, we kind of know them, but like we only update these documents once a year.
Okay, with that, we will adjourn until our 5:30 business meeting.